keeping you company for the next 2 hours. And let me remind you, this is the room where all the work gets done. None of this contract signing, pro formas, design, and so on, operations. This is where it's at, okay? So it's a great pleasure to welcome you to the Hospitality Masterclass. We've got a really tight program, so my apologies if I move people around and keep things flowing. That's unfortunate, but we've got a lot to go through. And you certainly didn't come to listen to me. So I'm going to kick off, first of all, by thanking our sponsors, and you'll have a chance to hear from them in a little while. Duetto, FutureLog, and Shiji. We're going to kick off with Kun Bu from HotStats, give us some operational costs. We're going to hear from Atilla on developing leadership, a subject close to my heart. And we've got 2 great GM panels to finish off. And we should be finished by 6:20. And Mauro has promised to bring some drinks in. So let's see how we get on with that. Okay, right. As I say, it's a packed program. So I'm going to shut up and sit down and hand over to Bu from HotStats. Please, thank you.
Thank you, James. Xin chào. Thank you. Thank you for making it today. Thank you for making it past the lounge and coming to us. So very good, very happy to see the room full. And then thanks, James, for a great introduction. It seems very serious, right? So yes, packed agenda and everything, but nothing that is not interesting, right? So let's start. And here's me. Oh, I have an AI as well. Why I changed my hair. But that's me. And I'm very happy to be back in Vietnam. I think it's my 4th or 5th time, if not the 6th time. And Vietnam has a special place in my heart, really. And not just because I'm enjoying all the food and all the places I visit, but I actually do have a very special connection with Vietnam, thanks to this special lady. She's no other than my own grandmother, and she's Vietnamese. Right, so she came to Thailand when she was a little girl during the war, and she actually lost contact with her family in Vietnam. So I do have family in Vietnam. I just don't know who they are, where they are, and who knows, maybe one of you is related to me, right? Now, there's another reason that I like coming to Vietnam is when I look at the HotStats data, right? So a lot of you know by now what we do. So HotStats is really specialized in hotel data, in collecting the P&L, so the profit and loss statement, or basically the business performance of a hotel, and then compare it against the market or the Comson in order to see if there's any new opportunities for revenues, of course, but also for cost saving, right? So we're talking about profit here. And when I look at Vietnam, and this is why I do like it, it's very easy for me to do the analysis because everything is up, right? So what we heard earlier from Jesper and from the other presenters as well is that Vietnam is really doing good. And when you see here, all the departmental revenues are up, right? Including the net RevPAR. And I'm insisting on saying the net RevPAR because it's not just your RevPAR, so that's your RevPAR, I don't know if you can read it. It's your RevPAR minus your cost of sales or your booking cost. And that is up by 16%, which is more than the rest of Southeast Asia, right? And also F&B, which is not always easy to gain. And here it's still growing. And the same with spa as well. Now the growth is 360, like how I like to say it. So not just 360 from all the departments, but also from all angles of the numbers, right? And what I like to do, as you can see here, what I did with F&B outlets is to look at the numbers per occupied room, right? And usually when you do a per occupied room, usually that's when you see a smaller number because as the occupancy grows, you divide by a bigger number, right? But then here you see the still growth. And the same for the spa here, right? So it means that the market is really performing. You have growth even per occupied room and even per square meter of catering revenues, right? So that's, of course, coming from occupancy that we just mentioned this morning or this afternoon earlier. And yes, occupancy is increasing, and as you see, Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi is doing good, still strong, more stable, right? So more or less increasing on a steady way. Da Nang is doing good as well with all the groups and events, but it's mainly Phu Quoc and Nha Trang which are really gaining here, especially Phu Quoc coming from both rates and occupancy. And if we look at the RevPAR, a 12-month rolling versus the same time versus previous year, it's actually doubled in terms of RevPAR for Phu Quoc, right? So really good performance here. And as I said, a lot of things, a lot of numbers in Vietnam are up. Another thing which is up is the cost, right? So as the demand grows, as the occupancy grows, there's more activities, more efforts, more expenses into getting the bookings, paying the staff, paying electricity bills, etc. So all the revenues throughout all the costs throughout all the departments are increasing as well. If you look at Vietnam, which is in orange here, you see also that the growth or the increase of the cost is actually more than the region itself, right? Which is okay, because you see that as the revenues are growing more, you still have a positive profitability. And apart from the other operated department here, which includes the spa or health club merchandise, which is quite pricey, one of the trends we've seen is really the room expense growing more, and here it's mainly coming from the OTA, the online travel agents or the third parties that, yes, we need to partner with them, but at the same time you have the cost increasing in these channels, right? So as the cost increase, it's also important to really manage the cost effectively, and then to keep in mind your direct bookings, the average for Southeast Asia, so we spend around 1% or less from the room's revenue on direct bookings, right, to get the direct bookings, so on the reservation fees, versus 4 or 5% through the third-party agents, right, third parties. So effectively manage the cost so that your margins are also kept positive. Right, so as you can see here on the left, our revenues are growing, so our profitability, our profit margins throughout the departments are growing as well, and the cost margins are increasing, right, because it's a smaller percentage as the revenues grows. So that's exactly the directions that we want. So you see the top line, both the top line total revenue per available room, up by 14%, but also your GOPAS, your gross operating profit per available room in Vietnam has increased almost 18%, which is really good. The growth, so the pace or the speed of the growth is also much better in Vietnam if you compare it with the rest of Southeast Asia. So that's the orange line that you see here, right? So you see it's really catching up. So the profit level, the profit margins are really catching up and probably exceeding soon the regions, right? So that's extremely good news. And then that's also mainly contributed by luxury hotels, as we mentioned a bit earlier. Now, why I'm showing you all this is actually, I want to explain quickly in the last few minutes that we have where the numbers came from. And as I said, so when we collect the P&L data, right, from the financial systems of the hotel, how does it look, right? So you have you and Comson, because that's what we want to see. We want to benchmark and see if there's more opportunities and where there's more opportunities. So is it in revenues, in cost, in rooms, in F&B, etc., right? So what I did today was to take you as Vietnam. So the numbers we just seen are the actual numbers of Vietnam hotels P&L in average compared to the rest of the region, Southeast Asia. And then the example of rooms here, if you paid attention in the first slide, when I said there was 16% plus from the net RevPAR, this is where it came from, right? So benchmarking is not just versus the Comson, but also versus yourself in the past, and then try to make it better year on year. why I'm showing all this again is actually so that when you go back to your operations or your team or your market, so you can have the exactly same mindset or analytics when you go and benchmark against your comset or market, right? And what I always like to recommend is to look at the variance, right? So it's not just about how you're doing versus the market or the comset today, but how you've grown or how you've lost as well, right? So who's gaining more or who's losing less, basically. And you have a very clear example here on the cost of food sales. You see the index of the variance is negative, right? And that's because if we take this sample, we've grown by 0.1 cost, right, food cost, while the comset has reduced, has declined or decreased their cost, right? So that's why the variance here, the index of the variance is negative. Of course, you won't have time to look at these numbers every day. So that's this generated graph where you see from the historical trend, that's exactly what I said. So you see how you're doing in terms of, in this example, food cost, right? So we're not moving that much, a bit stable, a bit going up even here, while the comset has managed to reduce the cost margins, right? So either because they did some good cost cutting or because they have increased the revenue so that the cost margins are smaller. So that's how you would look at the data in your hotel operations as well. And my last slide here, which is actually my favorite takeaway for you, is also to look, of course, at your flow-through or your flex, right? So this is a very easy quadrant. Everything which is on the right means your revenue, which is more than last year, right? So you have better revenue than last year, that's great, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have more profit, right? Because if you have more revenues, sometimes you have even more cost. And this quadrant, which is in red, and we don't want to be there, is when you have more revenues, but you have less profit because of the cost effect, right? So we all want to be in the green zone, going back, green zone, which is more revenue and more profit, right? Now, this is in the ideal world. The real world is that sometimes you don't have more revenues. You have less revenues than last year. So everything which is on your left is less revenues than last year. However, even with less revenues, you can still manage to have more profit if you not cut your costs, but manage your costs well, right? So less revenues, but make sure that the costs are even less. Like, so more flex, so more saved. And then you still have good profit margins here as well. And of course, not the other way around, which is less revenues and less profit. So Vietnam, yes, is doing good, is growing, but if you look also at specific cities like Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, you see that yes, there's more revenues, it's good, but we're still very tight on that line to be more profitable, right? So a lot of cost management still need to be considered as well. I will leave space to the next panel, and then while we get chairs here, you can download, if you want, the latest report that we've released on all the global locations profitability. Thank you. Or any questions in the meantime while we get the chairs in? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boo. Can I just ask, who is on HotStats in this room? Yeah? Very useful, isn't it? Yeah. And, oh, why you?
Well, what I missed, for example, in this presentation is the real problem. The real problem is that we are all selling our rooms way too cheap. That is, yes, look at what happened in Thailand. Look what happened in Thailand. The rates, you know, it's really, they went through a nice growth. Yeah. But I think that the Vietnamese hospitality in general is underestimating itself. And therefore has not enough rate, average rate on the books. If we all make that decision, the average rate go up. I'm sure, because it's worth it. It's worth it. Yep. And that is really something that we need to consider here. So I missed in this overview, I missed a comparison of average rates. I did.
Okay.
You mean versus last year or versus?
Last year versus last month.
The rate has gone up in general, yes. But
I
can it
think-
go more up? For sure, yes, I totally agree.
Did you attend the main session with SDR? Okay, because there was quite a discussion on that, and I don't think anyone in the room would disagree with you on the sentiment on that. And it is interesting to see Doha as one of the, where are we?
In the metrics, right?
Yeah, in the magic.
So Doha.
Now,
Yeah.
Doha against 2023. What happened in Doha in 2022? Football. Yeah, and those of us who've worked in Doha know there's not an awful lot to do in Doha when there's not a big sporting event on and a lot of new supply on there. So interesting to see. It looks as though they've held their rates, and some really wonderful hotels there. Abu Dhabi is another one as well. Santiago de Chile. Anyone from Chile here? No, sorry, Marcello. Yeah. But it's an interesting one, and I'm sure, please hold that question for when we have the GM panels. Be an interesting one. Any other questions for Boo? And you didn't tell me about the Vietnamese connection. Yeah, so...
I do have one. I just don't know where they are.
all I can say is welcome home.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, my apologies. We don't have enough chairs. It's a popular forum, and we're just going to need some help to bring some chairs up here for our next panel. Sam, where are you? There we are. Good to see you.
I'll try.
Yes.
They're a bit low. In fact, they're all different levels. Oh. Let's do it for all. Oh, no, this one doesn't want to go up. There we go.
Sam, you're going to be higher than ever.
That's okay.
All right. So it's a great pleasure to welcome our sponsors onto the stage, as it were. And I'm going to hand over to Sam Walter, founder of Heads on Pillows, to take over. And the stage is yours, Sam.
Thank you
very much,
James. Now I'm sitting taller than everyone, which feels a bit disproportionate. And I sent the questions through for the panel this afternoon to Mauro, and he just replied saying, just remember, it's 20 minutes. But I don't know if that meant that there was not enough questions or too many questions. So if we go over time, forgive us. I'm really excited to MC this panel today. We've got some of the brightest minds in the future technologies and trends in the travel and hospitality space. And we're here to talk about what is emerging on the market in 2025 and in future years. I think the key words on everybody's lips are AI and machine learning and data. But I think we're going to dig into this into a bit more detail with some of these fantastic individuals and the organizations that they represent. So before we jump straight into some of these quick-fire questions, how about we do some quick introductions? I'll start. I'm Samuel Walter. I'm the founder of Heads on Pillows, a digital marketing agency specializing in the hospitality space. And over to you, sir.
Oh, sure. Hi, my name is Jung. I'm the Hospitality Solutions Director for Duetto, which is an AI company that analyzes all the data, all the data in your PMS and third-party sources to make decisions for you in regards to rates, forecasting, restrictions management, and so on to maximize your revenue. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Benjamin. I'm the global SVP for Ops and Strategic Accounts for FutureLog. FutureLog, we're a digital procure-to-pay solution that service exclusively the hospitality, primarily on the international hotel side, but also large independent and domestic groups.
I'm Steve Hopkinson. I'm the SVP for Asia Pacific and the Middle East at Shiji. Shiji is a full-service hospitality technology company. So every component of a hotel's operations, from the property management system through to point of sale, reputational management, payments, data. Literally, the full circle we can handle for hotels. Globally, we have about 92,000 hotels that we look after and around 600,000 point of sale solutions deployed.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. So in 2 minutes, could you describe some of the key trends or the key issues potentially that you believe in 2025 and onwards will affect our industry, our operations, and our profitability? Would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think the first and foremost obvious one is the labor issue. But I know that in most markets we talk about lack of labor, lack of young people willing to work in the hotel industry. But I think in Southeast Asia, and especially here in Vietnam, it's not about the headcount. You can find people to work with you. The problem is the brain drain, knowledge management. You train people. I mean, revenue management in particular, but digital marketing and so on as well. It takes time to train somebody. By the time they're trained, they leave. And we see this trend happening all the time. So, being able to have a system that can manage your knowledge is very important. The second part actually is the lack of predictability. So today, most hotels in the world will do forecasting by pace. So they look at what they have on the books today, what do we have on the books same time last year, and then what are we going to do in the future. But how can you use the past to predict the future when the world is changing so fast? I used to work for Trump Hotels actually. So when I opened the Trump Hotel in Washington D.C., and it was like the hardest time of my life. And I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in Vancouver, and first thing I would do, like lying in the bed, it's still very dark. I would like turn on Twitter, be like, oh, I wonder what my ex-CEO is tweeting today, right? And I feel like today we're going through something similar, but at a different, yeah, it's back, but it's at a different scale now, right? And so in that kind of world, how can you rely on historical data to forecast the future? So I think that's a huge challenge that we're all facing today. Yeah.
It's really interesting about the labor being readily available, but not necessarily having the skills. Do you feel that differs country to country within Southeast Asia, or is that sort of more of an overall trend?
Yeah, it definitely differs. It depends on the salary level as well. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was in Auckland. And Auckland, all the young people are moving to Sydney, for example, right? Better opportunities, better salary, better living. You go to Philippines, people in Manila will tell you that labor is their biggest issue. And the first time I heard that, I was laughing. I'm like, wait, if you guys are facing labor issue, what's the rest of the world supposed to do? But it actually turned out that because the Filipinos speak English, everybody wants to hire a Filipino. So you go to Middle East, right? That you work 1 year in hotel in Manila, then you can get a job in Dubai. So that's it depends on the region. Definitely depends on the pay grade, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. How about you, Benjamin?
So I think when I look at those areas, things like digitisation, which comes off the back of staffing and resources. Post-COVID, we saw a massive decline in hotel operation team sizes. Owners and operators are probably never so excited to add those numbers in that was pre-COVID, and I think we've now seen that stabilise across not only Asia but globally. And I think when we look towards what are the key areas of change, yes, there's buzzwords, and we'll get to that later on about AI and these other areas, but I think when you look at overall tech stack, but I think the core area when I look at Vietnam, and I've been here for the last week and I come quite often, is actually that initial move to digitisation or even to just a cloud service of a software platform. So people are often saying, well, I've got a legacy system. It's sort of not great, but it's not that. We'll wait till it's end of life, or we'll do that. So that initial phase of wanting more automation, wanting more digitisation, they're losing the fact of, there is a change. You're moving from a CapEx to an OpEx in those other areas. But how are you going to get, with a reduced labour force, upswings in revenue and upswings in benefits to your customers, having customer retention by having better customer service, when your team's sitting there with an abacus or an Excel document that the FOM created 27 years ago, and it's now in its 54th edition. So, you know, I think you need to start moving towards those steps and leaps of, and it's not even a leap of faith. So often these systems are used globally and widely, and you're losing the situation of X amount of $1,000 or euros per year versus what the efficiency can be gained if 5% of my staff are actually not sitting behind a laptop or a document updating things after their shift finishes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there's AI for practical purposes, and then there's AI for the sake of AI. And I think a lot of businesses want to invest in AI right now, but if you don't have those fundamentals that digitization set up, you're not really working with a very useful tech stack at all. Yeah. And you, Stephen?
Look, I think playing off the conversation that we've been talking about here around big data and knowing what's going on with your customers and all the rest of it, what we see a lot of, there's so much new technology that's coming into hotels. Unfortunately, a lot of it doesn't talk to any other part of the hotel. So now all of a sudden you've got multiple silos of independent data all sitting there, not talking, not communicating, not giving you information. So you might have a piece of software over here that's doing a great job, but is it really feeding into your overall system and helping you to understand the data that's going on within your property? So I think there's so much new software coming out, and it's just not integrated. I mean, from our point of view, that's one of our big strategies, is to make sure that it sits in big data lakes so we can pull it. We want to make sure that we've got the right API strategies in place, so we're an open platform, so all that data can come together. So for us, data is so important, but there's so many disparate systems out there that people just go and grab it off the shelf, oh, I'll give that a go, and you end up not using that data. It's not working for you. So it's all that data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I might have touched on the answer that you might have for the next question, but in one word, what would you describe is the biggest trend that's going to affect our industry in the next 3 years? Jung?
AI.
AI. That's 2 words. How about you, Benjamin?
I'm not going to put it in one word, but I think people failing to exercise the use of their CRM.
Interesting. I think there's a lot of correlations between AI and CRM usage, and I think underutilization can be something that can be solved with AI, but you need to have that foundational stack to be able to really leverage that. Stephen, one word that you think will affect
one word,
our industry?
mobility.
Mobility.
So by mobility, mobile check-in. Sorry? Yeah, well, I know. So yeah, so mobility, mobile check-in, mobile payments. And you're seeing that certainly starting to come in emerging markets, but it's certainly not there. I mean, mobile check-in in Vietnam, as an example, is somewhat of a challenge, and a lot of emerging markets still have that problem. But I think mobility.
And I think all three are interrelated. You know, like you've said, you've got to have mobility, you've got to have the systems, you've got to have streamlined systems to automate them. But, you know, so many hotels are collecting, and we say it, I've been saying it for years at conferences, they're collecting huge amounts of data, but I still can't even get to a hotel and know that I don't want a fruit bowl and I just like sparkling water, or can we automatically check you in, but you've filled in a 27-point form, but can we just get your passport and keep you at front desk for 10 minutes? You know, these simple elements of execution, you can have the best systems in the world, but you're missing it all.
Yeah, absolutely. That welcome gift of a fruit bowl or a really nasty piece of cake is never very personalized. Okay, a little bit more controversial question. In under a minute, let's start with Stephen this time. What would you say is the most overrated hospitality tech trend at the moment?
I'm going to ignore anything to do with AI for a moment, because it's just, we talk about it and half people just don't know really what it all means. So putting that aside, for me on a personal level, it's badly executed check-in kiosks. Like, half the time they just don't work. You know, you spend more time at the kiosk than you do just by going to the front desk. So I think badly designed kiosks, if I think about something that's overrated at the moment, that for me, that's one example.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even whenever I'm at the airport in Vietnam, you see those check-in kiosks for Vietnam Airlines and wonder, are they actually for anyone to use? I've never seen anyone using them.
Now, the ones in Singapore, personally, I live in Singapore, they're great. They actually do work. But unfortunately, I don't have the same experience in a lot of hotels.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Benjamin?
Yeah, well, similar pain, but just that the use of big data and CRM, it's so hype. We've got CRM, we've got big data, we've got all of this guest information, but there's just the failure to execute. So there's one thing talking about it. The next thing is don't forget your guests know you're collecting it, but if you're not using it, not executing it, it becomes problematic and you'd wonder why you're even filling it in alone. And that's not even getting into privacy areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jung, you said AI is the biggest important theme over the next few years. What's the most overrated theme as we enter 2025 from a technology perspective?
So I say that all the time, but so first of all, I travel 3 weeks a month, so I'm rarely home. And yeah, TV, right? I don't know why we have TVs anymore because not many people I know actually turn on the TV when they walk into the room. And as somebody who's always working on the go, I would much rather appreciate having a secondary monitor in the room with like a docking station. I plug in my laptop, boom, I have everything on a big screen. And actually monitor is way cheaper than a big TV for you as well. And sometimes it gets frustrating when I want to know what the in-room dining menu is. I'm like looking everywhere frantically for the in-room dining menu. And then I called the reception, they're like, oh, turn on the TV. I'm like, all right, so I turn on the TV, and then it's like, oh, here's the QR code. Scan the QR code. All right. And then, you have to put your details. All right. And then you have to order it. So I'm like, all right, I don't know why we invest so much in that technology when we have tablets in the room. There are apps out there that are way more efficient. And quite frankly, there are some things where you don't need to innovate that much. I don't think anyone had a problem looking at the physical menu and calling downstairs. So yeah, I think TV is definitely my number one pick. Yeah.
But there was a problem when you tried to communicate with your order when you phoned downstairs.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So I mean, personally, if I went back to hotels, I would definitely advocate the like a tablet system, right? And you can do multiple languages, and if I actually go deeper into this topic, you can even do revenue management. Like imagine, as a hotel manager, you came to work, you see that there are a lot of empty slots available for your spa. So why don't you just launch a spa promotion for anyone checking in today, right? There are technology out there that can do that. Not easy to do with your TV, So.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's sometimes in-room dining, but also the light switches. I'll check into a hotel, I just want to go to sleep, and I end up turning on every single light in the room, and it turns into a 20-minute digital exercise on an iPad just trying to turn the lights out. Yeah, I feel your pain. So, Jung, what would you say is the most impactful revenue management trend shaping hotels in Vietnam and Southeast Asia right now?
Yeah, so I'm mentally prepared for this one. So, guys, I just want you to know before I give my answer, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I love Vietnam. I've been coming here since 2006. And I came here and I was debating, should I tell people what they want to hear, or should I tell people what they need to hear? And so yeah, I've decided to go with the latter. So
Good.
Yeah, I'll give you my conclusion first. And I think the trend here in Vietnam is that there is lack of trend. I think that is the issue. Because if you look at revenue management space, revenue management was adopted by Marriott in the 80s. 80s, like that's already 40 years ago. This is not like Metallica and AC/DC days. This is like Mr. Big days, if anyone knows who Mr. Big is. But it's 40 years ago, yeah? And revenue management is not a religion, but here people say, well, I'm not sure if I believe in revenue management. Well, that's like saying, well, I don't believe the earth is round, and it's revenue management is purely science, and it's used by everyone. I was in Auckland 2 weeks ago. McDonald's in Auckland provides personalized pricing. So I could go to McDonald's, and Steven could go to McDonald's, and we would pay different prices for the same cheeseburger. So the level of revenue management in the world today is really well above and beyond what we see here. Duetto, we service 45% of all casinos in the United States. We can actually integrate with the CRM and understand how much each of your guests are spending at the hotel and provide personalized pricing. Why should somebody paying $100,000 in gambling pay the same rate for the room as somebody who's paying $1,000, who's gambling with $1,000? And we can do the same thing for F&B. So the technological capability is really far ahead right now today. But here in Vietnam, we still need to work on implementing the first steps. So I think that's a big issue. Yeah.
That's really interesting, and we can dig into afterwards maybe why. But first, we'll go to a question for Benjamin. what are some of the most valuable data points that hotels should be leveraging to drive revenue and cost efficiency?
Yeah, so look, I guess when you look at a space like procurement that we operate in, it's about tackling the low-hanging fruit. Everybody's got the same core consumables, whether you're a luxury hotel or you're an economy hotel. You've got breakfast, you've got core key items, and everyone looks at really complicated scenarios, really complex supplier agreements, and how to drive the best price. If you work in a really simplistic manner, you need a system to consolidate the information. You look at your top 20 items purchased, you negotiate those, and then you continue and cascade on. So of course, you've got a system that helps provide you, but overall, the cost that you can do when you've got utilities, laundry, and cost of sales is usually taking up the lion's share of the hotel's cost. You make some modicum differences in supplying those, negotiating those prices, and it can have a huge impact on the bottom line. Then you add in automation on top of that with a system and seamless integration, digital, lots of governments moving to digital invoices. So, these are some ways.
Yeah, that data is so powerful, but you need to have that information before you can leverage it, right? Cool. Okay, so one question for Stephen. For hotels that are hesitant to overhaul their systems, could you explain to us how they might be able to roll out a new system in a way that maximizes their ROI, but gives them a short-term ROI as well?
That's an interesting question because it's never that easy with technology. But I think at the end of the day, for a hotel, you really need to understand your current tech stack. So if put the list together, put everything that you've got in your hotel, all the technology, understand what it's doing for you, start to see, like I said earlier on, is it talking to each other? But more importantly, if I think about from Shiji's point of view, right? Now, we sit there with the Shiji platform sitting at the center, and everything is connected into it. So from a data point of view, and also with all our partners. So these guys here, as well as hundreds of other API connections we have, we push data out to them, they push it back to us, we present it to the hotel. So therefore, you've got a full overview of what is going on from a data point of view. Back to my point around data. So if you want quick wins, you don't have to implement an entire solution, but start to look at the things that will give you productivity gains. So, this data that you've got, how's that going to help me? Can I get some wins out of that by working out what I can do with my ADR that we were talking about before? So, I think you've got to understand your tech stack. You must and I've been building software since 1992. So understanding technology and what you've got in your hotel is important. I guarantee a lot of people here are going to have very old, outdated, just not talking to each other, you don't know what's going on. Start by looking at what is going on in your hotel and then pull back and start working out what you should be putting in to allow everything to talk.
Yeah, I love that.
Actually, I'll give you a really, sorry, I'm on a bit of a roll. I'll give you a real example.
James is giving me dirty looks.
Sorry, James. But from our point, we've got our PMS, our daylight PMS that sits there. We own a company called Review Pro, which is the world's largest review platform for hotels. That's all connected. So you've got a guest standing in front of you. We can tell you, did that guest give you a bad review, a good review? Because we can see it. Then how can you improve that experience? Because you know what the good and the bad was before. So as one example, we then have a product called Infosys, which is a point of sale system. Again, it's connected in, so we can tell you what they purchase and buy in the restaurant. So bring it all together, and that's just 2 examples of many.
Sorry, just to add a cherry on top. So Duetto has a very robust and seamless integration with Shiji products so that we can use their data to help you make decisions as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I love the synchronicity. Okay, so we're going to narrow this down to just in one word because we've run out of time. But what are consumers asking for in 2025 that technology can empower hotels and resorts to provide them with? Just in one word.
Personalization.
Yeah, love it. Benjamin?
I should have gone first. Yeah.
I took it.
Yeah. So I guess service mind.
Unfortunately, I have to go personalization because I've just banged on about it for a couple of minutes. So it's personalization.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights and ideas. Really, really meaningful and insightful. I'll hand it over to James, who will introduce the next talking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, please. A big round of applause. What a great panel. Really interesting. You're back again tomorrow, aren't you? at the New World. So if you've got more questions, please come along to the hospitality marketing seminar tomorrow. I've got lots of questions, but they will come into the next panels. We talked about staffing. I would say, particularly in markets I've recently worked in, the issue is not recruitment, the issue is retention. And I know someone who really shares my beliefs is about to come up and talk. Atilla is going to come and talk to us about educating Vietnam's hospitality leaders. And if you don't know Atilla, whilst we're waiting, Atilla, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, James. It's a very important subject, actually, because throughout the day we talk about real estate, you know, investments and booming, everything, design, but I think this is one of the subjects that, of course, is in the bottom of my heart, because it's about human. Then I'm going to just explain a little bit, of course, about what we do and what we should do all together in this country. Then I know some of the panels, the GMs there as well. You know, we share a lot of common ideas on the... Then my name is Atilla. I've been here for approximately 10 years, worked 5 years with Fusion, then opened my company with my partner, business partner, 5 years ago, exactly during COVID time. It was amazing to realize that we went through so many difficulties on top of also creating a company. And I was, it's completely, it doesn't look at all. But the point is, it was really extremely a beautiful exercise to go through COVID and after COVID. Because we were thinking like how we're going to develop this industry, but more with EQ, with empathy, how we're going to build a strong team, a strong, I would say, soldiers that we will grow together and make this industry very strong. Then, of course, at the end of the day, you can, of course, go to the other rooms and talk about design, beautiful, you know, large hotels, stunning entrance, but if there is no staff, you can forget, doesn't work. Then Skool hospitality actually was born with that idea. We should look forward with them and how we're going to build them. Then in the meantime, I was lucky as well to receive 2 beautiful assets under management, which is called Mia Saigon and Mte Hcmc. Then applying these rules was also one of the first, I would say, discussion with the owners. I say, if you want me to be part of this, I would say, journey, you need to allow me to not only localize, but allow me to make sure they grow within the organization. And then if I have somebody 5 years before the journey, I would like that person become also the leader of the property. Then they say, yes, please go ahead. Then I don't have you have the comment? Oh, sorry. Then the Skool hospitality was basically just like everyone. It's an hotel management company. Then it's not a school and we have, I would say, tables and we're teaching people. No, they need to learn while they're working. It's typical, it's common, nothing new. You say, oh, I've seen that already. Yes, correct, you've seen it, but not enough. And I think you have in Singapore, you have some other countries in Europe as well. Then some of the developer might think, okay, this is a great tool because it's lower your payroll. But as long as you really pursue your concept by developing them, then we, as I say, we do concept design, technical service operation. That this is the boring part. There is a problem then when I left Fusion, after having a couple of hotels, beautiful, amazing employees, we were involved in the wellness. Then we had more than 400 therapists. You cannot teach them overnight. Then it was a very long process. But hospitality, if you give a couple of months and you grow them within the different departments, then they need to have the foundation, and then they will understand, hello, how are you? 10 years they haven't seen you. Wow. Then you sort of like grow them in different divisions, and they will eventually like something, and then you develop them. That was the purpose of it. The problem was there is a lack of skilled labor. And then we say, okay, let's start. And we started with the 2 properties, actually. We started with Saigon and Nha Trang, and then after we opened our first one. Then again, what is the real story of a schooler? A schooler is somebody who's coming for 6 months, and it's a 4 to 6 months, depending on the property, and they will need to learn is 0 tuition fee. Mean we employ them, and they will be working, and we say you work 4 days a week, And 5, 6, and 7 days, if you want to work as an extra, you can earn as a casual labor. Then for 4 days, you're going to learn on different principles. And after your 4 or 6 months, we guarantee you a job, either with us or with someone else. And that's basically 80 to 90% on-job training. You will have a debrief at the end of the day. And we qualify these students, we call them schoolers. We have them, of course, through wristbands, 4 levels of wristbands. Then the blue one is I do, you watch. Basically, you teach them. They don't know anything. They will be walking around with the blue wristband, and you say, okay, maybe I might not ask questions to that person, but you should as well, because they should be engaged to that. Then you have the light gray, which is I do and you do. Basically, we do together. It's a system like a brother and sister. Then you have a bit darker one, sorry, it's a dark gray. You do and I watch. Basically, it's your turn to show me that you learn. And the last one, of course, you don't do anything. You just teach the others. Then the process of doing that is you don't need to have teachers. Basically, you need to have different schoolers on different levels. And then, of course, the benefit is what? We find them a job. And we find them the job where they want to learn. If they want to go to F&B, you know, they've been already sort of seeing the foundation of that division. It could be rooms, could be anyone. Of course, we don't do finance, we don't do some specific like HR, but they can also grow within that division. Sorry, can you go next? Then for me, the schoolers are approximately 2/3 of our employees. Then we have 4 brands. Each brand is called Skool with a different name. Why? Because if we call Skool means this is only room only. The program will be giving them only reception, maintenance, of course, guest relation, housekeeping. This is purely something which is mostly city hotels, because a lot of properties they don't have F&B, or they outsource their F&B. We have a Skool Plus, which is seaside, which is also an advantage of mountain, where you have a little bit more. You have F&B. That's why we say plus, to make it very simple. We have a new property called Skool Lux. This is a boutique. Basically, you can go all the way to 4.5 and 5 star as well. This system works as well. We've applied in MIA in a certain level. We have a lot of permanent staff, but we have a lot of trainees as well. And the last one, this is the one that we working on the project with a gentleman which is at the back that I can see, Mr. Olivier. This is a project we call Skool Academy, and this is a campus. Basically, they will be living in. And we have a project in Kega that we're working on. Then each brand has, of course, either project or it's open. You will be able to see. This is quickly, I don't want to go too much about that. 2 minutes, okay. Let me move it to the right subject. Okay, facts. You're right, I appreciate it. This is what is important. I took one of the statistics from one of our property, which is 5-star level. Then I say, can we apply in that? Sure, 100%. If you look at the trainees, we have approximately 25% of the total staff are trainees, you know? And then after, you need to discuss how many of these trainees become permanent, if they want to become permanent. And you need to also allow them to grow within different departments. What I did actually, I'm talking about 100% Vietnamese leaders. I don't include any foreigners in any of these statistics. And actually, we have 450 staff with only 1 foreigner. That means that we emphasize on the local leadership growing. Both hotels have hotel manager, ladies, Vietnamese, that run the hotels, which is, I think, very important. 70% of our employees are below 30 years old. Being Swiss, I can tell you in Switzerland, you don't have at all that statistic. It's above 40 for sure. Then, and 30% is above 30, but is also below 40. Means that when I walk around the property, if I go and see, I'm not only the oldest, but it's like a grandpa, because they are very young. And we talk about a luxury hotel. Then what happened with this? Then you need to be innovative. You need to be creative as well. Then you need to allow them. Then if I go very quickly, a lot of all these people, I would say MIA artists, they change departments. They started, let's say, with F&B for 2 years, and then they change their mind. They want to go to reception. We allow them. We have so many cases like that. Staff retention, one of the questions that was asked, it's about that. grow them within your organization. They might change their mind after 1 or 2 years because they've been around and they say, okay, I'm tired, I apply for another job. Allow them to change. We change so many people from A to B to C. Then, of course, you need to go through a minimum of, I would say, either a training or but we allow them. We don't demote them, we keep them and we grow them. I have a couple of examples in this room where I work with and they grow within the organization to the level of the GM as well. Then for me, this is very important to understand that it's a young industry. And after COVID, we lost all of them because it was a terrible, I would say, period where they moved to different industries. Then to keep them and to allow them to sort of make mistakes, to develop by themselves. Stop with SOPs. SOPs are the most boring paper you can give to someone. You should stop with all these things. Any leaders who say they need to read the SOPs, they go wrong. Because today you need to engage them, you need to show them, and you need to embrace a different method of going back to the old days. Then that's why I say people are leaving, because it's so structural.
It's really interesting, and because I'm sure both panels are going to have a lot to say on what you are. I'll give you 30 seconds, Attila. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
No, it's a very like.
Because I want to ask about SOPs, I want to ask about brand standards and so on.
I said tomorrow, can I wear a T-shirt? Say no, it's so hot here. You know, that's the point. You know, I might say I will need 20 minutes to explain the way I feel the industry. Today, we are the guardians in a way, and we are here for a while. We should give the chance to this young generation to be the leaders next day. Then you have a beautiful panel of people that have the experience, but how we grow them, this is what we should learn. Mario and I, we discussed already before, is like this young generation is so powerful, so strong. Then let's find innovative way, maybe technology is also one of things, but teach them, stop being too procedural, because that's why they quit our industry. Sorry, I'm probably...
Is that it? Please. I know I can see your passion and all you want to talk about, so we could go on for another hour.
Sure.
But we've got, as you say, two distinguished panels, and you've thrown up some really interesting points and questions. So please, Attila, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Really, really good. And I'm sure with our two panels, we'll touch on some of those points. Right, we are actually just about on time. And I'd like to say a big thank you to all our speakers, but especially to our panels for taking the time to come out and share their insights. And our first panel, where we're looking at market insights from leaders and market insights from leaders in action. And our first panel is all about beaches. And I'm going to hand over to Douglas Loudon from Perceptions Hospitality, who's going to take us through this. Douglas.
Thanks very much. If we can just get our panelists up here, please. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. No, I think we can just sit down and we'll introduce each other. We got enough chairs? Okay, Manuel, you got a chair? All right. All right, so we've got quite a big panel here today, and we've got quite a bit to get through. So just as a way of introduction, I'm just going to go down and ask everyone just to quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the topic.
Adam Riley from BIM Group. I'm head of hospitality, been in country just under 6 years, based in Hanoi. I'm sure some of you in the room have heard about BIM Group. We're properties in Phu Quoc, Halong Bay, Laos, and a really big project just north of Hanoi as well. So before I came back to Vietnam, I was based in China for about 8 years with IHG.
Hello everyone, my name is Martin. I work for the Annam. We have 2 luxury hotels, one in Mune and one in Nha Trang. 13 years in the country, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Manuel Ferriol. I'm right now the general manager for Melia Serenity Cam Ram. It's a new property we are opening for Melia Hotels International hopefully quarter 4 this year.
Good afternoon. My name is Louis Walters with Sailing Club Leisure Group. I've been in Vietnam for about 17 years now, and we operate properties in Ha Long Bay, Mui Nei, and Phu Quoc. So very honored to be here today.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Andre Gensch. I am in Vietnam for 9 years already, my goodness. I'm working in Da Nang and I represent the Ariana Tourism Complex, which is the Furama Resort, the Furama Villas and the Ariana Convention Center. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole. I'm the curator or general manager of the Radisson Red in Da Nang. I'm relatively new, I've been there for 1 year. I come from the Middle East, though, from Dubai, so I do know some other things about beachfront places. Thank you.
Xin chào everyone, my name is Mario, General Manager of the new Fusion Resort and Villas Da Nang, the new flagship of the baby. Fusion is actually the first Vietnamese homegrown wellness brand that started 12 years ago with Fusion Mire, if you all know. We're all over Vietnam and Thailand and spreading around Southeast Asia at the moment.
I forgot to say no advertising, but anyway. So, don't invite Mario, yeah. So we're talking about beaches, and obviously our panel here are all super experienced in beaches. Now, if I look at a map of Vietnam, we have 3,400 plus kilometers of coastline. So I'm not a dinosaur. I went off and I did my research. I went to AI, I asked DeepSeek, tell me the best 20 beaches in the world. I got 2 in Asia, 1 in Thailand, Rawai Beach, 1 in Palawan. Nothing came up in Vietnam. So my first question to the panel, and this is a bit of a free-for-all, why? What's wrong with our beaches that we don't rate? No, my DeepSeek works.
Well, we'll take the tough one here.
Yep.
I think that I just came back from Germany, from ITB, and we had a lot of discussions with international tour operators, travel agents, who gathered there at the world's largest trade fair. And one of the most, let's say, points talked about was the fact that Vietnam basically doesn't have a tourism board, especially overseas in the countries. I think that I think Vietnam, in terms of the quality of the beaches, has outstanding beaches, absolutely in the same line with Malaysia, Thailand, and other countries. We don't have anything to hide. But Malaysia, let's say Thailand, is so much better in advertising themselves overseas and promoting their beautiful, let's say, parts of the country, which Vietnam isn't really. But that is one point.
Okay, Louis?
To Martin's point, I agree, and I think Vietnam is still a lesser-known destination, especially if we look at Southeast Asia and all the various other beaches in Southeast Asia. We're competing to the likes of Bali, to Thailand, you know, Boracay, that's got some fantastic beaches. I think another point is infrastructure. And the sort of infrastructure in Vietnam, especially if you look at the beach destinations, are still relatively new and under development. If you look at the Cam Ranh Strip, for example, I think it's going to be fantastic 5 years from now, even sooner. But right now, there are a number of resorts open, while a lot of them are still under construction. So I think changes will come over the coming years.
Maybe I want to add on this. Yes, I agree, the visibility of our beaches is not good enough. That's, of course, historically speaking, that's because of the weakness of Vietnam Tourism Board, etc., etc., etc. Oh, man.
Who's in charge of that board?
Can I rewind, please? I forgot he's sitting here. But, I mean, we got to be realistic as well. Yes, the beaches in Vietnam are beautiful. No, they are not better than the rest of the world. Yes, they are not worse than the rest of the world. We have beautiful beaches which are comparable. What we do not have is distinctive beaches. So we don't have that distinctive beach like you have it in Thailand or you have it in Mexico, which goes perfectly for Instagram, which goes perfectly for promotions. Our beaches are beautifully boring, if I can say so. You know, we have 4,000 kilometers of beautiful but boring beaches all the same. So what we must do is we must understand it's not only done by waving the flag, going to the ITB in Berlin and say, hey, Vietnam, beautiful beaches. The rest of the world will say, yeah, we have the same. You know, we as hoteliers, we must create this distinction with our destination, with our hotels, because our beaches are not distinctive, they're beautiful. So we need to add, like someone said earlier today, that cherry on the top.
Nicole, you're quite new, so tell us your...
Probably say facilities. I mean, we're in central, in Da Nang, so one of the things that really lacks is maybe some lockers, some things that make it a little bit easier for people to use the public beaches. We, as the hotel, sit on the beachfront. We're not a resort, so people are using the vendors that are on the beach. Where do you lock your things? Are there rentable items that you can use? Yeah, so I'd probably say that.
Okay. Adam?
Anyone that knows BIM knows that we've got some pretty gorgeous resorts on beaches in Phu Quoc, and we're actually going to open one in Halong Bay, and not advertising. But my answer is not about the beaches or the resorts that we have on our beaches. It's more, when I was a youngster, I travelled to Indonesia first up, and into Bali, and then went across the Lombok, and then got on a little jekung and went to a little island called Gili Nangu, and went exploring. So intrepid travelling. There's a massive opportunity in Vietnam for this intrepid traveller to come and explore. And if anyone hasn't gone onto the outer islands in Halong Bay and seen some of the beaches out there, which are just fantastic. So the intrepid traveller is still out there, and that's an opportunity for people to come to Vietnam. And they see Vietnam as one of those places that's, is it a little bit safe? Is it a little bit unsafe? It's a bit beautiful. It's got this historical sort of piece that comes to it. So we can't always throw arrows at VNAT and all the local sort of authorities. There's this piece around intrepid traveller that I think should be captured as well.
Yeah.
So I have a sort of, my heartstrings pull me to Vietnam to go exploring a lot, like I did in Indonesia.
Okay.
So yes, I don't disagree with anything anybody said apart from holding the Tourism Advisory Board responsible. But I forgot what I was going to say. Yes. Anybody not know me?
Nice one.
No, it's Ken from Tourism Advisory Board. So, but the government, and I sent a letter to the Prime Minister this week, Monday, about tourism promotion. We don't do it. Vietnam didn't have a standard. The show did it.
First of all, I didn't mean the TAB, I mean the VNAT. Ken, it was not to you
very
directed,
different.
but no, it was not the Tourism Advisory Board. It was no reference to you, so no worries about that.
No.
Talk about
I
VNAT.
didn't take it personally.
No, this year actually, they had a very nice booth. Last year they didn't have. This year they do have. But the number one challenge, very honest with you, the number one challenge is that many other destinations, they do a lot of training. They have offices within UK, within the US, within Germany, within Switzerland. They actually do events. They visit the different offices, explain about Vietnam, what is the right time to travel, what is interesting, what is the good beaches. Vietnam doesn't do that. Vietnam doesn't have a single overseas office. It's
well,
such one we had. But by the way, great job by the TAB. But at the moment, VNAT is doing basically nothing. Really nothing. And the hotels, I'm with Andre, have to do the job at the moment. We have to do the marketing, we have to do the PR.
So that's the point I was coming to is, when you look, Thailand, I think last year spent 180 million on tourism promotion. I don't think Vietnam spent 2 million. So that's what we need to do. We need to get everybody aligned and spending money on tourism promotion with the overseas tourism promotion offices, right?
Thanks, Ken. Last week I was on a flight leaving out of Saigon, and I was on a bus going out to our plane. Group of maybe 12 Americans who were obviously on a long journey through Southeast Asia. They'd been away for 3 months or something or other. Yeah, maybe. USAID workers with nowhere to go. And they started, I have to say, I'm just sitting there hanging off the strap. They started venting about their experience in Halong Bay, about how dirty it was, how polluted it was. So the question to the panel is, how big an issue is sustainability on top of this?
I won't talk about Halong Bay, but I'll talk about Phu Quoc, because when we got invited to come on this panel, the first thing I did was reached out to 3 of my general managers, one at the Regent, one at Intercon, and one at Park Hyatt that were pre-opening.
I said no advertising.
And I haven't said anything about rates or friends and family. The first thing they said when I asked a simple question, it all came back to sustainability. That was the first question. The second one was VNAT. And they all talked about it. And they were sort of proactive about it for Phu Quoc, because Phu Quoc's an island, so why can't they be the first recognised place in Vietnam that has a heavy sustainability program? So it is a big topic for the GMs. They get confronted by a lot of their customers and so forth. So, and those hotels have sort of pretty heavy sustainability programs involved, but it's a pretty big issue in Phu Quoc. And the same thing a little bit in Halong as well.
Can move to everything, but basically all starts and ends for me with government and expenditure, advertisement, constructions going on everywhere, communications. So is everything going to go back to the same thing? If we don't have the support from the government on starting putting the policies in place and starting doing the investment that they have to do, sorry to say, it's like we want to be 20 years ahead of where we are right now.
Yes and no. Sorry, I'm going to jump in here. We have to get off our bums a little bit as well, as an owner and as the operators that we have there. So I don't know if you guys have heard about the Ocean Cleanup, a company that's out there. So we're reaching out to them because we know we've got a problem in Phu Quoc, so we can't wait. So we're going to see if there's an opportunity for them. And they've got a great facility they're using down here as well, called the Interceptor, and it could be user-friendly on oceans. So, yeah, government's got a part to play. We all know that, and so does local authorities, so does owners, so do operators, and so does staff. So there's a little bit of collective here. So just wanted to add 3 cents.
Look, I'm just going to say, look, 12 years ago I was in Da Nang, and I just moved back recently. The corridor in Da Nang, the development has been, of course, quite subjective, we could say. But the prosperity that it's brought to that area. Central Vietnam is now, I mean, look, 10 years ago it was voted world's best beaches by Forbes, right? Now you've got 8 world-class golf courses. You've got amazing heritage destinations. You've got an infrastructure there. But not only that, it's created sustainability for the people there. How many jobs have been created there for so many individuals, right from the north, from Hue, all the way down to Tam Kỳ? And more projects are coming, yes. But it's the long-term sustainability of the development of that city. For us, Da Nang is like Gold Coast 30 years ago. Has Gold Coast fallen besides the recent cyclone? No, it's one of the best places to live in Australia. That is what Da Nang is aiming to. And hopefully Da Nang will go down the road of retirement and medical tourism going forward as well.
Sorry, Louis, you were going to say? Okay. Talk about the product that we have on our beaches, because, okay, I agree with Piondro, maybe the beaches aren't that memorable, but do we have the right product on our beaches? Have we built the right types of hotels? Obviously, Adam's Regent is a fantastic example of a luxury property on a beach, but we've built a lot of boxes. We've built a lot of 25, 30-story buildings along beaches. Are we building what the market wants right now?
Yeah. You were. I don't know the real answer to that. All I know is you've sort of got to make sure you've got excellent master planning in place first up. But I will tell you a sort of bit of a side story down in Phu Quoc. And we work with Sailing Club. So Louis and I work very closely together, and he's got the beach club and he's got 2 other assets down there. And right along our foreshore, where you got the Regent, Intercon and Sailing Club and Seoul Boutique, about 3 or 4 years ago, the local authorities, and we had free access onto the beach, no interference. And then the local authorities put a road, a coastal road in front of us. I can tell you the anxiety within our general management and the operator community about putting a road right in front of the resorts, getting across, you had to walk across the road to get to the beach. It was the best thing for our resorts. and the amount of people and the traffic that increased going across our properties was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's not answering the question around do we have the right resorts. We think we've got some pretty nice sort of properties down there, and we're building some others, but sometimes it's the left field decisions that happen. And Louis and I were talking about it earlier on today over lunch, about 7 years ago when the beach club was approached, Sailing Club Beach Club, to come to Phu Quoc. It was a big decision, and it was a big capital decision for them to make as well. But you look 7 years along, and Ken will tell you what Christmas and New Year's Eve is like down there, and it suits a particular market. So in some places, I think we've got it right, and there's an opportunity, and it's across all sort of price ranges as well. And you've got to have all price ranges.
Do we need more Camrans? Do we need more multiple hotel developments along single strips of beaches? Or do we need more moinets? Small hotels with some sort of quirky little F&B and some more eclectic things along the beach. What do you think the market are looking for?
I think there's room in the market for both. So Camran with the airport there, so that's easy access. If you look at the resorts in Camran, high rises, you know, big hotels, massive inventory, and then looking at Moinay and what Moinay's got to offer. So sort of smaller resorts on the beach, some a little bit towards the back, easy access from Saigon, especially now with the highway completed, 2.5 hours, easy drive. I think they speak to two different markets. I think Camran speaks to a more luxurious upper-end market, whereas Moinay speaks to more of an expat market. I think Moinay speaks more to sort of adventure seekers, especially with the kite surfing, the windsurfing, the sand dunes. Whereas Camran just speaks to a different sort of market, a more luxurious market, the airport there, easier to travel there, and then the resorts just offering more within the complex. So I'm talking about the resorts with, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 F&B outlets, spa, kiddies club, etc., etc. I think within Vietnam, there's absolutely room for both. And Douglas, to your previous question, are we building the right sort of developments, right? And I think you can see the contrast if you look at an area like Moinay versus Camran. And I think we've also got to consider this from a developer's point of view. The price of the land, what is allowed to be built on the land, sort of maximizing that. You know, sort of as general managers, as operators, we can sit here, we can criticize this. But at the end of the day, the developers have to get a return on that investment. They've got to get bang for their buck, because we need the developers to build more resorts for tourism to continue to grow and flourish.
Okay, great. Phu Quoc's obviously picked up a lot in the last 12 months. Camran, some of that sort of overbuild is starting to come to an end. There's a couple more hotels to finish. Where next? What's the next hot destination for Vietnam, beach-wise?
I reckon Quy Nhon. I think Quy Nhon's going to be a massive destination for Vietnam. Talking about beaches, I think all eyes should be on Quy Nhon and Phu Inh. I was up there not too long ago, twice actually, and I was just blown away by the beauty of the area. Now, I think if Quy Nhon and Phu Inh can learn from other destinations, such as Phu Quoc, some small learnings there, but good learnings from Nha Trang, Cam Ranh, Mui Nay, I think Quy Nhon and Phu Inh can be world-class destinations.
If I may, can we finish what we started in Vietnam before looking for something else?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can we just finish? I'm sorry, maybe I'm. But Phu Quoc destination. We want to make it international. We want to make it perfect. Okay, fantastic. Let's do it. Let's grow it nice. Make Vietnam a place to go. And then once we have those on a very nice rate, very nice occupancy level, okay, move, go somewhere else. Quy Nhon, fantastic. Phu Inh too, but I rather keep it for myself for now. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yeah, too. I mean, it's everything. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting. We in 2008 we bought the land in Cam Ranh from Vina Capital. And we developed our hotel quite for a long time, the Anam there, and we opened it in 2016. And during that time, there was not much, you know, except some Russian and Chinese coming in, there was not much business coming. But now everyone knows with all the hotel developments down, especially in Kamran, you know, beautiful smaller properties like Fusion, JW Marriott Kamran is coming up, and so on. And it has really developed and grown very, very well. And the hotels there, which have been built, were also a pull factor for certain, you know, flight lifts and certain type, especially type of travelers come in. Then we invested into Mte, and luckily the expressway opened up and the travel distance was cut down from 5 hours to 2.5 hours, and the new airport will open up, the Long Tan International Airport, with most international flights flying in to Ho Chi Minh will then be very close to Mte, so the whole destination will explode, especially 2027 onwards. And we build now 2 more resorts in Phu Yen province, in the north of Thuy Hoa, the beautiful land, and I agree, the beaches are stunning. Most people don't know Thuy Hoa has a 3-kilometer runway built by the Americans, the same runway than you have in Da Nang. And what will happen is once the hotels are there, it takes time to build, it will not come from today to tomorrow. Once the hotels are there, the flights will come. And the first thing what will come will be charter flights from Korea, from China, and so on. And once charter come, scheduled flights will come. So Phu Yen, Thuy Hoa, Quy Nhon, and so on, definitely anyone who's interested in developments, that will be the next new hot destination, in, I think, in down the road in 5 years and later.
What does the panel think about that? Is that the logical progression for development? Build the hotel first and hope the development comes after? I'm not sure if I'd be
That's the Vietnam system. That's very obvious. And I mean, we are all coming from countries where tourism grows naturally, organically. But Vietnam went the other way. You see it in Phu Quoc, you see it in Cam Ranh, you see it in Ha Long Bay. It was very obvious. What Vietnam did is they took the land from the beach, they gave it to developers for a very, very cheap price, actually, under the condition that the hotel has to be built within 2, 3, or 4 years. And if this is not the case, they would take the land back. For example, the Grand World in Phu Quoc, which is now has been built by Wing Group. That was a totally different project first, and the developer failed over 5 years to build up the hotel. It was built up like 4 floors, then and about 100 never finished villas, and at some point of time the government said, bad luck, now we give the prime land to someone else. So what was the idea? You basically tell all these Pullmans, Sheratons, Hyatts, and all the others, I don't mean anyone, here, I give you a fantastic location, right smack on the beach for a very cheap price. If you are not going to take it, somebody else will take it and you will be late. And everybody run, and everybody build in Phu Quoc, bam, 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 bam. Between Da Nang and Hoi An, you've been there. 8 years ago, you drive from Da Nang to Hoi An, you see beach, 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 beach. 6 years ago, construction, 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 construction. Now, all closed. You drive from Da Nang to Hoi An, you don't see a single meter of beach anymore. It's all the international brand. What comes next? They bring in the general manager, and the general manager says, oh my God, I have a beautiful empty hotel. I need tourists. I start marketing, and because, welcome back, Martin, because VNAT doesn't do it, I need to spend the money and do it myself. So Vietnam does the other way around, very, very smart. They give the little carrot, the developers jump, they build the hotels, and they are desperately searching for tourists, and Vietnam grows. I think it's very smart, you know?
Right. Are there any
don't know how to top that, but I mean, I have to say, look, there'll come a tipping point, right? And naturally, we look to our neighbors like Thailand and Philippines. If we look at Thailand and the closure of Maya Bay, what's happening now in Cat Ba Island, an area, that's quite sad, right? Or look at Philippines. It went to a tipping point, they closed Boracay down, rejuvenated it, and reopened it. It's all about having a proper environmental board here who will actually zone these off or look at the future. Or when will it end up like Spain and have over-tourism and then nobody wants anybody there? So I guess it does come down to having a proper, yes, governmental board that zones, protects the environment and doesn't let it reach that tipping point, but also ensures the regeneration of these destinations.
Interesting on Spain, because they have, I think, the highest number of tourists in the world at the moment, any country.
we just had that debate in another panel a couple of weeks ago. No, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, one thing has to be said, you know. We spoke about Moyne and Camran and all the differences. There are also the destinations with high-rise buildings, right? And personally, I don't like those high-rise buildings. And personally, I won't stay in a hotel which is next to another 50 hotels and all of them are 30 floors. But this is also one kind of tourism which brings business. And this is a much needed tourism because, frankly speaking, where will all the Chinese go when they all reach middle class? They will go to the next beach in Vietnam and they will go to those high-rise buildings. It's a market which cannot be missed. And in that panel, there was actually somebody from the audience who said, yes, but it's going to destroy the reputation of Vietnam. No, and I come back to you, Ken, now. It's not going to destroy the reputation of Vietnam. Spain is known for its beautiful beaches, for its beautiful cultures, for Madrid, for Barcelona. But in Spain, you have dozens of kilometers full of high-rise buildings for tourism. And it hasn't destroyed the reputation of Spain. It just caters in specific areas for a specific kind of tourists, wherever we like it or not, and it works for those people. And coming back to you, Mario, wherever we like it or not, it's also a kind of sustainability because it gives the people a life. It raises their living standards.
Okay, so last word from...
No, as Spanish.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We did something wrong, yes. Fine. No, basically, translating this into Vietnam for me, or from my understanding, I think I get both, is we do have to have specialized destinations in Vietnam. I don't think we do. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken, but we don't have a luxury destination in Vietnam. Somewhere that we say, this is luxury, and there's only luxury. And we have something that is resort and very resort style and lonely resort style. And if we can make this happen, then something will change.
Yeah. Excellent point. Okay, look, I'm sorry we're out of time. I think it's quite a passionate subject. We could go on for much longer, but obviously the bar will be open a little bit later on to discuss it. Just to finish, I've got a brilliant idea for you, Ken. On your next letter to the Prime Minister, maybe don't mention my name, but this came up to me. How about we rename the Gulf of Thailand the Gulf of Vietnam? Not me. It's all yours. It's your idea. Run with it. Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to our panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great panel. Thank you, Douglas. Well done. So, right. We've had the Spanish view. Dr. Nuno, are you going to come and reply?
Am I dropping this one too?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
I think we've just lost our
Let me just
helper.
call the members of the last panel to the stage, please.
We need so many seats.
All right. Just whilst we get everything set up, this is the last panel. This panel is standing between everyone and Hosker Knight. So no pressure. And I would like to say a big thank you, please, to Dr. Nuno for dealing with multiple changes and multiple changes in panelists as well.
Well, thank you, James, for being such a great sport and organizing this so well. Thank you all. To the members, the esteemed members of the audience, I am cognizant that the bar is going to open very soon, so I'm keeping that in mind. I had a somewhat lengthy introduction to the topic of city tourism and urban tourism, but very, very quickly, I want to share some numbers. We're going to talk today a little bit about our calling cards. I am Dr. Nuno Ribeiro. I'm Senior Lecturer in Tourism and Hospitality Management at RMIT Vietnam. I've been in Vietnam for about 6 years this time around. I've been studying and researching tourism for longer than I care to admit. I also had very lengthy introductions for each of these three gentlemen, but I think, again, in the interest of time, we're just going to take a couple of seconds and introduce ourselves. Can I please start on my left with John Gardner?
Okay, afternoon, everybody. John Gardner, CEO of Optimum Hospitality. We're a boutique hospitality and hotel management company and consultancy company. Been in Vietnam 18 years and formerly worked at Caravelle Hotel for 15 and a half years, exactly. Prior to that, I've been in Asia for 30 years, originally from New Zealand.
Philippe?
Yes, so my name is Philippe Le Bourris. I'm the general manager of the Hôtel des Arts, M. Gary Collection in Ho Chi Minh City. I've been here for 2.5 years, 6 years in Vietnam. I had the pleasure to be working during, before and during COVID in Phu Quoc, so that was an interesting time. And I've been in Asia for 30 years.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see so many familiar faces with us. My name's Alistair. No AI, unfortunately, just the real deal. So I'm at the Sofitel Saigon Plaza. I've been in Vietnam for 2 years. Had the pleasure to live in Tokyo, Seoul, Dubai, and if the accent didn't give it away, I'm from the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you all. I asked Mauro, can I please share a little bit of that at the beginning? Can I have a short slideshow of 52 slides? No. So you can say a few brief statistics by way of introduction. So before COVID, for Ho Chi Minh City, we had 7.2 international arrivals. Of those, 3 million arrivals stayed overnight. That generated $3.1 billion. For Halong, placed 48th, no statistics. For Hanoi, 4.7 million arrivals. Of those, 2.2 stayed overnight, generated 1.3 billion. Da Nang, pre-COVID, had 2.5 million arrivals. Now, post-COVID statistics, did you know that 4 cities in Southeast Asia are in the top 10 of world cities in international arrivals? We have Bangkok, coming well above, Hong Kong, Macau, and Kuala Lumpur. Do you know where we rank? Any guesses? Oh, that's well too optimistic, huh? Ho Chi Minh City is number 76, and Hanoi is number 83rd. And I speak this with a great love for this country that has come into my heart more than 20 years ago. What I would like to discuss here today in the few minutes that I have, again, before the bar opens, is what can we do about this? Now, more recently, during the last Tet holiday of 2025, Ho Chi Minh City alone generated $303 million. Hanoi generated $139 million. So, can I kick off the panel by starting? Bangkok generated more than 4 times Ho Chi Minh City, close to $1 billion. To put it in perspective, right? We're doing well, and we can do better, yes?
We can't really compare Bangkok and Ho Chi Minh City, can we?
We cannot.
I
Philip,
worked in Bangkok for 7 years. You know, every year you have 5, 10 hotels opening.
Absolutely.
You have huge airports. The machine, the tourism machine in Thailand is amazing. Bangkok has everything to offer, so it's another level.
Absolutely.
And maybe it will become.
And Philippe, and again, for the benefit of our audience members who are students of history, Thailand has had an additional 30, 40 years on us as far as tourism development.
Tourism started in the 70s.
We move quickly, but not that quickly. Now, could I kick off with a couple of icebreakers? Could I ask the 3 panelists, what has been your biggest challenge, on one hand, post-COVID, and what has been the one thing that you are proud of as far as city tourism and your properties? Philippe, could I start with you in Hôtel des Arts, please? An establishment that I visit frequently.
So of course, you know, the ups and downs are always the hardest thing in hospitality. We all know as GM is how to manage the up when there's so much, you know, demand. And when we reopened after COVID, it was pretty challenging to recruit, but we are lucky in Ho Chi Minh City, we can find people. Good people with the right attitude. Now it was, I think the biggest challenge was training, because finding people, fine, happy, young, speaking good English. So that was, I think, quite easy compared to Phu Quoc, where I was before. But they all needed a lot of training. So I think for us was the biggest challenge is to develop a training program, having the right motivation to train all these people every day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Philip. Alistair? One challenge, one success?
Maybe I take the other one, success. So I think one of the successes in our hotel has been our social dining with impact restaurant, ST25 by Koto. No advertising for the hotel, only Koto. Koto, for those who don't know, is a social enterprise. So with my counterpart, Mario, at the backside there, we opened together about 1.25 years ago. So we hired 20 disadvantaged youth that have gone through the alumni program of Koto, so giving 20 people a new start in life. And we also distribute 10% of our revenue back to them. So really helping future underprivileged youth in Vietnam have a second chance in life. I think that's probably a very new concept. Everyone loves Vietnamese food. There's a lot of competition in town, a lot of different innovative concepts, but this really has a strong ESG from the heart. So really, I think that's probably our proudest achievement of end of last year, this year.
One challenge?
One challenge, I think mindset. Essentially, the pickup always in Ho Chi Minh is very last minute. So there's always a belief that everything will happen in last minute. And generally, Vietnam, it does. In Vietnam, it always happens last minute. Everything comes together. It's very beautiful in the organization within Vietnam. But it's to change the mindset within our team that we have to build up the base. We have to start from the bottom. We cannot just expect good things to happen. Good things always happen in Vietnam, by the way. So that's the challenge, I think.
For sure. John, and perhaps this added wrinkle from an asset management perspective?
Well, the developers that we work with, the challenge has been trying to find good, qualified, experienced people to go into the resorts. Because part of what we do as our consultancy is find partner management team, right? So
Talk to Attilla and get some.
Exactly, right.
So hire our students.
And it's been challenging. I mean, I've had in the last, particularly in the last probably month, I've done numerous online interviews with potential management teams for people to join hotels. And I've got to say, I've been particularly disappointed in the quality of the people applying for some of the jobs.
They were not our students. They were not our students, disclaimer.
Clearly not, clearly not. So that's been a challenge, real challenge.
John, one success?
Sorry?
One success?
One success. I think one of the successes that I've had recently is building good relationships with very small developers. And that's the way we operate. We're a boutique company, and just building these one-on-one relationships with owners and getting their confidence. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you, John. I didn't necessarily have my next question in the list that I sent you guys, but I think, and again, realizing I may be preaching to the choir here, we've talked a lot about brand management and cohesive brand management and the need to have a cohesive approach to capture international tourists and have a cohesive message to domestic market. But one statistic that sort of struck me is that the rate of revisit to Vietnam is low, right? It's 12%. Again, preaching to the choir, this is something that's not new, whereas Thailand is in the 40s, Vietnam is in the low 10s. However, when we look at the rate of revisit for key city destinations, it's even lower. My friends, help me understand this, please.
I think one thing which is well documented is infrastructure. You know, having the infrastructure in comparison, and it's great to see the developments in Ho Chi Minh City. That the metro has been well documented by many. That's a great advancement, and we need the metro, yeah, for many years.
Only took 20.
But there's got to be things that surrounds it, sporting venues, music venues. There's got to be other facets to Ho Chi Minh City's tourism. Certainly when people come here, they have an amazing time. They love the food. They love the culture. It's definitely a very enjoyable experience. So we won't talk about immigration lines or visas or anything that political. We'll leave that to Kenneth Atkinson to solve those issues. But I think that the general infrastructure around Ho Chi Minh City, because people certainly do love coming here, but again, it's not enough for them to come back, right? So there's got to be more facets to support that, I think.
Yeah, I think there's. I agree with you there, and more cultural events that could happen within the community. There's a lack of those. I think that, or not that a lot of them are there, but they're not publicised enough. And so a lot of tourists that come here don't know the sorts of events that are happening within the city. And even myself, having lived here for as long as I have, surprises me just what is happening in the city that I just don't know about because it's not well marketed. But also, you know, the likes of what you said, Alistair, you know, the airport shambles, that puts people off, and the difficulty of getting visas for from some countries to get in here. They think, well, why, let's just go to Thailand, you know, it's easier.
Philippe?
One additional point is, the first time people visit Vietnam, they try to do everything. North, south, and the second time, because there are guests who do come for a second time, they will do only the north or the south or the central. So I noticed that the second visit, they want to discover one part. So they might not come back to both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. Just speaking to customers. Huh?
Absolutely, Ken.
No, but so I agree that the return rate is very, very low. It's very high in Thailand in comparison. Thailand is a major airport hub, which brings people back. It offers great shopping or great food options, so people do stay a night or 2 nights. But the biggest thing that drives return visitors in Thailand is second home ownership from people abroad. And that's something that, again, that, you know, when we try to preach that, it falls on deaf ears. But that would solve 2 problems, getting the return visitors and getting rid of some of that coastal property that's...
And encourage long-term guests to come for longer periods of time.
Yeah. And easy access to visa. I think visas, a lot of progress were done with Martin a couple of years ago.
Yes, and I think the work of many people present in this room, that the advocacy efforts that many of the folks involved with Eurocham, with AmCham, one of our greatest successes precisely.
Hopefully there will be more countries because it's still a few countries.
Could I move into something else near and dear to my heart that has to do with guest experiences? Could I ask Alistair? You and I have had many conversations about creating positive guest experiences and how that's key in attracting not just repeat customers, but in driving that customer satisfaction index that is then key to marketing not just the property, but the destination. Can you share a few insights? Oh, perfect timing.
Is the conversation that bad?
Loosen the tongue a bit.
Cheers.
Cheers, Alistair.
So, 5 minutes left.
So I think going back to your question, Nuno, I mean, we do know with let's say the Gen Z, the Gen Y travelers, they're looking for or they're craving unique experiences within the property. I'll try not to talk much about the property, but we try to create an ecosystem where we have different experiences for the guest. It's a very heavily competitive market. I talked about ST25, our ministry concept bar with House of Barbad, a speakeasy concept bar with a hairdressing salon combined, again, creates a different experience. So everything that we create, we want to make sure that it's attractive to the market, it's unique. It's not a gimmick, but it's got to be unique, have a solid ground base that we can offer to the market. So we really want to try to create those kind of unique experiences. Of course, a hotel has brand pillars, it has a very distinct brand marketing, but again, we want to try to create different experiences that guests want to return back for.
Yeah, so that's a great segue into my next question for Philippe on food and beverage, which tends to be one of the calling cards for international tourism in Vietnam. If you look at any social media outlet that you like, the top 10 videos are somehow, shape, or form related to Vietnamese food as the calling card to the country. And you've done quite a bit of work in turning F&B into sort of an attraction point for guests. Could you maybe give us some pointers, some tips?
F&B has always been a big highlight of the hotel because we don't have so many rooms, but the F&B part is strong. Remaining strong is always complicated because there's more and more competition and consumer change. The behavior, what I noticed, the behaviors of customers are changing the last 1 year. Do you want me to explain?
Please continue, yes.
No, because I found that interesting. Because I noticed people drink less alcohol, they eat less meat, and...
Not today.
Okay.
No, less. I didn't say no.
Yes,
doesn't
we're all
mean
into
that-
active living here, Philippe. Yes, certainly.
Because we were from after COVID for the fear of missing out to the joy of missing out. Today, people are more selective. People are not, they don't eat beef once a week, every day. They might not have a regular, they might be, okay, let's eat less. They're more health conscious. They are more, and it's why alcohol is dropping. There's of course the regulation and driving regulation, but it is changing. And I spoke to several suppliers, and if it's not in their field, they agree with that. A famous managing director of a famous brand said, oh, of course for his wine and champagne and so on, it's an issue, but oh yeah, I only eat beef once a month. So its behaviors are changing. Especially, that's the joy of missing out. People are more selective.
And speaking of change in behaviors, John, you've seen it all, huh? Whenever I need, or you've seen most of us, I guess. In your opinion, do we have an identity as far as city tourism in Vietnam?
I think we do.
What is it?
But you've got to dig. I think the authenticity of the Vietnamese culture is really there. You know, you get out and you dig around in the back alleys and the back streets of the city, and here in Hanoi, you know, if you can do those and you do walking tours of what are they called? Eating food tours. There's a lot of those sort of things, but I don't think there's enough of them. But I think there's a lot of things to do in the city, and as long as I've been here, I'm still discovering things that are out there in the city that tourists could do if it's put together well as packages and tours in the city. Yeah, there's a lot to do in the city.
Fantastic. I want to open the next little bit of time that we have for questions, given that in the previous panels we seldom had time for questions from the audience. So the floor is yours. Bob?
I have a quick question. How many of you are members of AmCham or another chamber?
Yeah, of course.
Please get involved with your chambers. I happen to be chair of the AmCham Committee for Tourism and Hospitality and my co-chair here. And Ken was there last week. We had a wonderful talk trying to see how we can get this group going again. Please, if not AmCham, your own chambers, work together on your tourism committees and see what you can do together. Thank you very much. I'll work with any of your other chambers. Thank you. Turn that into a question.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I've got a question for Philippe. I stayed in your beautiful hotel when it first opened, and I think I paid like $70 a night, and they had 2 floors available because it was like pre-opening, and I fell in love with it, loved it ever since. How have you seen your target market evolve over the years? You mentioned that you've got guests drinking less, eating less red meat, which is kind of indicative of a trend we see with Gen Z. They are the first generation to drink less. How much has your target market changed as a hotel over the years, and what are you doing to accommodate that sort of change in direction?
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah. No, I think the trend of F&B and the trend of rooms is very different for us. When you open a hotel, especially a soft brand, because MGary is a soft brand, it takes time to build up. So the first few years, they had a crew, an airline crew, to be able to cope, to create some occupancy and position the hotel. Lucky, I came in 22, and actually my second month, we did November 22, we were above 2019. So it came up very quickly. The leisure market luxury leisure market is very strong. We have a strong European American base. Australia is increasing very significantly. So leisure market is actually the highest paying market, more than corporates. That's interesting in the luxury market. Leisure can pay a lot more than corporate. You can't sell $1,000 to a company, but you can sell $1,000 to an individual guest. We don't, but that's what I noticed. So the leisure market continues to come. We are lucky in Ho Chi Minh. There's not too many hotels like us, in that segment of leisure, luxury leisure. So at one point it will bite us because it's nice to be a few, but if we need actually more hotels to be able to open the market more, of course the airport needs to be a bit better, but more offer creates more demand also, I believe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe. Thank you very much for everyone today. I just want to ask all the gentlemen here questions that what is the challenge of for hotel to doing destination marketing? Because we all know that could be the solution to lighten up our industry. Also sustainability, personalizations as well. But for hotel, what is the challenge? I want to know that.
Destination marketing, with individual.
Let me explain a little, because when people come to travel, they want to connect to the place, also with the people and culture with that location, right? So I think that could be like the really strong point, a big reason for people to come to travel in Vietnam, for example. And that could be like promoting hospitality. So in terms of promoting culture or history of Vietnam or people, or the beauty of the country. So we all see that's like a solution. But why it's not happened yet? What is the challenge,
That's an excellent question. In fact, one of my master students is studying that very same topic. Have you considered pursuing postgraduate education? The matter is rather complicated, and it has to do with the fact that as what we call, quote unquote, modern tourism destination, cities in Vietnam are fairly new, right? So if Doi Mui is in 1986, we really don't open to tourism until early 2000s. We really haven't started pushing that culture, history until the second decade in the 2000s. Give us time. That's part of the reason. But part also related to some of that, what John was saying, it's kind of hard to figure out what's going on, right? The offer is immense. There's always things happening, always. An incredibly vibrant music, art scene. But I always seem to find out about things like 10 minutes before they're about to go on. Right? So if someone has sort of the key to this, what have other destinations done in the past? We've spoken about Barcelona, for example. Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie myself, but that's okay. The lady's got an amazing career, but no argument there. But the majority of what we call, or so-called mature destinations, they have invested heavily in the promotion of cultural and art events, and in the dissemination of those events to the general public, not just to the domestic market. We are not quite there yet. Again, not to point any fingers at some... There we go. But perhaps my esteemed panelists would like to...
The infrastructure's improving, but it comes back down to the marketing dollars that are out there and being promoted, and there's just simply not enough. The government are not investing in promoting Vietnam domestically or overseas as much as they should, compared to Thailand, if we make a comparison. Or, well, all of those countries, yeah, and my country as well. They spend an enormous amount of money on tourism. So I think that's the basis of the problem. The government are not investing in tourism, and for whatever reason, they don't see that that investment is going to bring huge dividends, and that's something that Thailand recognizes.
Actually, when I was in Bali about 15 years ago, The government was not, we're also complaining about the government compared to Thailand and Singapore, Malaysia. And they had the Bali Hotel Association, but it was allowed to have a proper association with a proper budget, and they would have a booth at ITB. They would have, and hotels part of this association would be able to go, and we had over 100 hotels joining this Bali Hotel Association. So, but it's not easy to put in place, because until you have few hotels, it's hard to to convince owners to put money into something for the future, because we all expect the government to do, but what if it doesn't happen? Because government might do it, but in 10 years. So, and they will do in 10, 20 years. So we should do something before, but how can we structure something and fund it? And convince the owners to start
Which
somewhere.
is a question, perhaps I'm going to go to both Alistair and John at the same time. Are public-private partnerships the future of city tourism? I've always had a difficult time understanding this triumvirate of general manager, owner, brand manager, asset manager. Sometimes there's 3 people, sometimes it's even 4. But is it possible to generate precisely those resources that are needed to promote our city destinations? Can we go public-private partnerships? Alistair, could I start with you, and then could John add a little bit more, please?
I'm not sure I'm allowed to officially comment on that, but no, I mean, look,
I think it's whiskey o'clock now, Alistair, so unofficially.
I mean, certainly there's got to be an alignment. The alignment must be there to start off with: owner, asset manager, operator. Those 3 in the magic triangle, let's say, have to be aligned, right? If they're not aligned, then that's where disagreements occur, and there's been some documented cases in Vietnam. So I guess that has to be the alignment. Kind of digressing a little bit back to the previous question, where we see a lack of resources outside of Vietnam kind of promoting, where we see strength is through brands. I think Mauro pointed out right at the very beginning, people are seeking brands, right? They want to have a brand they trust, that they recognize, and certainly international hotel chains, I guess, are thriving off that. Where we see in our property, going back to your question, Madame, is that basically we see our brand presence in strong countries. So Pacific is one of them, Australia, New Zealand. We have a lot of Sofitels down there. There's a strong brand alignment where they see that they can have that security, that we deliver that on a brand level, right? So that's where we see some strength. And then secondly, we see a lot of other guests that are getting a bit bored of the traditional Southeast Asian destinations. Phuket is now overrun by many different countries. We also see Bangkok, we also see Bali, and they want to try new things. And I was actually quite surprised that a lot of tour operators in the UK, in France, are pushing Vietnam as a new destination for people to try. They may not know much about it, but they're trying to push it because they've had good feedback when people come back. So half answers your question, Nuno.
No, that's very, very, very helpful. Thank you. And we have 1 minute, so John, could I just...
Yeah, just an answer to the question, Nuno. I think this absolutely can happen, totally can happen. And I think if the government lead the way, private enterprise will join hands. If it's done in a professional way, if it's good promotion programs put together, private companies will join in very quickly to do that because they see the benefit. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Philippe, 30 seconds to sort of cap us off.
I think the point here is we need to support each other, but the fear, I mean the urgency comes in Bali. When I talked about Bali, it was after the bomb. The hotels were running below 10% occupancy. The island was empty. There was no choice, work together or die. So then they work together. Here we are, Ho Chi Minh City, sorry, but Ho Chi Minh City is doing well. We didn't, I mean...
We can make one.
No. No, we don't want a crisis, we had enough. But, and we saw Foucault, yeah, they deserve better business, but, it's coming up. So I think, let's see the next wave of hotels, the next 100,000 rooms opening, how we'll be doing and how we're going to manage that.
Fantastic. Excellent parting words. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the members of the audience. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you. Just one thing I'd like to say, really, really interesting. You probably noticed that John is not Ms. Twee. And
I figured that out.
now, John has actually been through the Anantara Wellness Program. But poor Miss Twee has lost her voice, and I'd like to say a big thank you to John for stepping in really at the last minute. So thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. That ends the event. Please, I think the ballroom is ready for us.